Welcome to IBH, Managing Time and Setting Boundaries. My name is Kathy Ketcher. I'm the founder of Career Life Alliance Services, an organization dedicated to enabling companies, managers, and individual contributors to work successfully from anywhere. I've been doing this important work since 1987, and I've been invited by IBH to share best practices in managing time and setting boundaries when working from home. There are many new realities in our lives today that weren't there just a short time ago. Today, we've had to adapt to working from home at a rapid speed, and as we settle into our new routines, it will be helpful to have structures in place to help us maintain consistency and reduce our own anxiety. To do that effectively, you're going to want to consider some of these key objectives: starting your day off on the right foot, creating a schedule, understanding when you're most productive, taking time off when you're not going to be home at the end of the day, and setting boundaries. By having a plan in each of these areas, you will be more likely to stay healthy and happy and engaged as we all navigate this new normal. To begin each day as if you were heading to the office, it is helpful to emulate the routine you had in place before you started working from home. To do this, write down all the activities that were involved in starting your day before the outbreak. Did you work out in the morning, have breakfast with your family, dress for your day, or other rituals that helped you get off on the right foot? Then decide which activities you want to keep and figure out how you will do them in the new normal. For example, if you went to the gym every morning, that's no longer an option. So maybe you switch to doing an exercise app at home or going for a walk in the morning. A lot of the activities we do won't have to change all that much, so it's important to keep as much of your routine as possible to reduce stress and uncertainty. Then decide if there's any activities you want to add to the start of your day. If you are living with your family 24/7, maybe during the weekday, consider starting out each morning with a family breakfast where everyone can share their plans for the day or give each other updates. Lastly, begin your day as if you're heading to the office. Get dressed, get your beverage, and be ready to be connected and to collaborate. When we're working from home, many of the triggers that moved us to action are missing, so we need to be intentional about everything we do. It's so easy to get pulled into the vortex of work only to sit up hours later and realize you haven't even moved or eaten. Use your calendar to make sure this doesn't happen to you. And along with your traditional meetings that you put on your calendar just automatically, set reminders to reach out to colleagues that you would normally have connected with in the cafeteria or just walking down the hall. If you used to have lunch with a group of people when you were all in the office together, go ahead and schedule a virtual lunch where you can catch up on your current realities, share stories, and maintain that sense of belonging. Schedule breaks in your calendar or use an app. Our smartphones have lots of apps that will prompt you to get up and move around because long stretches of inactivity have been linked to many chronic health conditions that include diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and other chronic illnesses. They say sitting is the new smoking, and a lot of sitting takes a toll on your physical health, and being sedentary negatively impacts your productivity, well, and your overall mood. It's a classic productivity tip to match your most important work to your most productive hours. If you do that, you will get a lot more done. But this advice assumes you know when your most productive hours are. And you know what? Many people don't because we're often stuck in a reactive mode, which may not give us the time we need to become familiar with our own internal rhythms. So one way to do this is to write down how you spend your time. Use a time log. Keep notes about how you feel as you do your work and be honest. Sometimes you might feel like you're on a roll. Other times you might feel like it's time for a nap. But by spending some time analyzing, focus patterns will show themselves and you can continue to schedule your important work at a time when you're at your peak performance. Working in time blocks may sound like a new idea to some people. Others may have been doing this for years. Time blocking is a type of scheduling that can help you manage your time better. So instead of working by the clock, you can focus on finishing big and small tasks one at a time. This will give you the help you need to limit distractions, get things done faster, and leave you less overwhelmed by a lengthy to-do list. To begin blocking your time, you first just need to establish your high-level priorities and goals. This will shape what makes it into your schedule and how you block your day. An easy place to start is at the beginning and end of your day. For example, if you're doing your best work first thing in the morning, then that is when you will schedule your important projects, your focus work, or your team brainstorming. At the other end of the day, you may want to schedule a wind down period followed by family time or an evening routine. Now, with your bookends in place, it's time to take the same approach with the rest of your day. For many people, the appeal of time blocking is in setting aside long stretches of time to record for focus work, where you might be writing, designing, or coding, but you can't spend all day on focus. You have to find balance. As you block out your times, remember to include both deep and shallow tasks. Deep tasks are the focus work I just described. Shallow tasks are those simple things that we need to do to stay caught up. It's checking email, responding to messages, updating project plans, recording information, or sharing documents. Why this process works so well is that you schedule your most meaningful work when your attention and energy are naturally at its peak. And then you do the easier, shallow tasks when you're lower energy. And it also reduces our tendency to multitask, which for sure cuts down on errors and increases clarity. Now, sometimes we feel that we should be available to our colleagues 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, especially when anxiety and uncertainty are heightened like they are today. So it's important that we schedule the times that we will be available for work and when we won't be available. Decide ahead of time when you are going to manage your family responsibilities, run errands, or complete household tasks to prevent your work life from blurring the lines. In this new normal, it's important to be flexible and willing to adapt as needed by putting your intentions in your calendar and then sharing this information with your colleagues and your family. This is going to help you maintain a sense of control and order. For example, if working from home for you involves taking care of an elderly relative that's living with you, set aside the time that you need to support this family member and share that information with your team. When we communicate and even over communicate, we reduce people's tendencies to wonder, if we're meeting our work obligations. When we are all working in silos like we are today, now is the time to be very transparent about what you need to get done and not feel guilty or hesitate when people need you. And switch off at the end of the day from work to home life. Communicate with your team when you're done with your day. Most of us have likely received emails and messages from our work after hours and on weekends. With home and work literally happening under one roof, you should decide how and when you want to respond to after-hour requests. For example, if the best time for your manager is to send emails late at night, that's great. But they should also know that they don't expect a response. So talk with your team about their communication expectations. As a team, decide on response times and what the best way to reach each other is if there's an urgent situation, especially if something happens after hours. By planning ahead, you will be better able to keep your work from spilling into your personal time. When you're working from home, especially if you're living with family, you will need to set boundaries for both your family, your manager, and your colleagues. The best practice that I've shared in this session will go a long way in helping you establish some boundaries. And here's a few more ideas for managing your work from home during the day. Communicate with your family any obligations that you must attend to during the workday. If you have important meetings or deadlines or project work that must be managed without interruption, make sure you're communicating that. And keep in mind, Of course, the unexpected will inevitably happen, so also be prepared to be fluid and flexible. Conversely, let your team and manager know about your family obligations that you need to support. Maybe it's sitting with your school ager as they adapt to their virtual learning environments, or getting children set up with an activity, or taking them outside just for some fresh air and exercise. Whatever the event is, communication is the best way to set expectations and reduce confusion. And give yourself permission to say no. Fear, guilt, and self-doubt are big potential pitfalls when trying to set healthy boundaries. We might fear the other person's response or feel guilty by speaking up and saying no to a family member. And during this crisis, you may believe that you should be able to cope with any situation, to say yes to everybody because you're a good teammate, you're a good mom or dad. But even if saying yes makes you feel drained or taken advantage of, so give yourself permission to say no without guilt and maintain your healthy boundaries. Now, I've shared a lot of best practices around managing your time and setting boundaries that include getting a good start to your day, creating a schedule, working in time blocks, making sure you schedule your time off, and establishing boundaries. I want to thank you for your time and attention, and I hope that you found this information helpful, and I wish you all the best as we work through this crisis together.